I sat down and started to write, the strangest thing happened. My father's story came out. And it hadn't been anywhere in my mind. As I started to write it, the story came out and I was wondering, why is this story coming out? As I got to the end of his story, I knew. See, my father suffered from severe depression. So severe, he shot himself. About 7 years ago. I found him. And 7 days later, we had to pull life support. And I was there when he passed away. And it was the most wonderful, peaceful event. But when I left the hospital, I promised him something. And I had forgotten about the promise until I started writing the book. And the promise was that this would not be for nothing. Meaning his suffering, family's suffering, my suffering. It would not. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I knew it would not be for nothing. As I thought about it months later, I thought it had something to do with money because he did struggle with that. But of course, that's only a symptom. Whether it's a relationship or a career problem or a job or money issues, these are symptoms. I was gifted with joy, which was the solution to all of these things. So what led me to this moment, this flipping of the suffering into joy, were a number of things. There were some practices that I had been doing beforehand, mindfulness and these type of things, which I will be sharing more about in the retreat that I offer. But the really key thing was the decision to not suffer anymore and to feel better, combined with the refusal to blame anybody or anything outside of me. Because in that moment of pain and suffering, what we have tended to do, and we've been taught to do, is look for the outside reason and the cause. Somebody did this to me. If he or she hadn't done this, And all that does is keep your attention on the pain and the suffering. So I decided I would not blame anybody else, no matter what happened or what they did. And I wouldn't do it verbally in front of them, and I wouldn't do it with my mind, with my thoughts. I had zero tolerance for it. So I really cornered myself because I couldn't blame the outside to feel better. Did you know when you blame the outside, sometimes you feel a little better? Yeah, maybe. But it's never fully complete, is it? There's always a little bad taste in your mouth.
Temporary thing.
Temporary thing too, right? So I just had absolute zero tolerance for it. I said no more. And I also said no more suffering. I don't want to feel like this anymore. So I had nowhere to go. I couldn't go outside, so I went inside. And when I asked myself what I wanted and looked for it inside, that was the other key. I found it there. I found it there in great, great glory. So what came out through me to a friend was the verbalization of what I had been doing internally. So it's not the words that do it, it's the action of doing it internally. The words can lead you to it. But before I get into that, which I call the practice, because really it's just what you do. We've been practicing suffering, right? All our lives. You're a child and you're crying. What does your mother do? Say, go to your room. Go to your room to cry. So we are really good at going to our room to cry and suffer. And not so good at looking at what we wanted to feel. Because we always were conditioned to think it's outside of us. It's not. So before I share the practice, the one major learning that I got from this is that we don't want things, people, or events. We want the feeling we mistake them for.